Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have in the studio with us Pastor Tim Olson. I've been looking forward to having Tim in for a long time, and he's kind of kicking off a new series that we're doing over the next several weeks, maybe in months, see how it goes. But we're going to have a variety of local pastors in talking about how are they encouraging their congregation in this craziness in which we're living in today, where right seems to be wrong and wrong seems to be right. So I'm just really delighted to have Pastor Olson with us to kind of kick off the series. And Tim, by the way, he pastors Bethel Church. What do you call it? The Vista Point?
Bethel Church at Vista Point, which describes where we're at.
Okay.
Right up on the hill.
Right up on the hill. All right. Bethel Church at Vista Point, up on the hill. So you go up McAndrews to the top. You can't miss it. It's gorgeous setup up there. So welcome. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
How's the church and everything?
Church is going good, and we're loving life, and we're being blessed.
What's God telling you?
Well, interestingly enough, kind of the topic we're talking about today is the whole topic of how Christians kind of maneuver in the day and age in which we live. How do we navigate life right now? And so those are the kind of things that I think right now the church needs to be thinking about. And I think certainly one of the great things that God has given us is the church, and He's given us other believers. And so that's really where I'm heading right now with our church is how do we encourage each other? How do we really help each other? How do we love each other the way the Bible, tells us to?
Did you ever think you're getting called into the ministry and be a pastor and things like that, and in the early days, you teach doctrine, you teach people, and you encourage and go on, but now you got to deal with all of these issues out there. Everything that's happening in life now becomes a focal point, and how do you relate the gospel to that?
Right. Because we live in a post-Christian culture, and we're dealing with just a lot of situations that take place, bad situations that take place when you leave God out of the equation. And so, thank God, the Bible says where sin abounds, grace that much more abounds, and there are a lot of people still coming to Christ, but when they come to Christ, they just don't have the background that a lot of people have had, and so everything is new to them in the faith, which is really exciting and really great, and they're very teachable, but at the same time, they're dealing with a lot of issues in their lives because of the fact that they haven't had that foundation in their lives.
Where do you find the patience? I mean, you just mentioned it. You get somebody in today, and they're really messy. Yeah. When somebody comes to Christ today, they're pretty messy. And that's what we're called to do, to minister to them, the least of these. But it just requires more patience these days.
Sure. Where do I get the patience? To be honest with you, I love it. Okay. I mean, when you look at the kind of people that were attracted to Jesus, those kind of the irreligious people were the ones that were drawn to him, and he spent a lot of time with those people, and it was actually kind of the more religious crowd that Jesus had less patience with. So that's kind of interesting, and not that being a Christian for a long time makes you a Pharisee, because it certainly doesn't. I mean, but the important thing is, no matter how long we've been a Christian, that we have that open heart before the Lord, and we have a tenderness, and we're teachable. And boy, the day that we live in today, it's so important to be teachable and really just have an open heart. I'm learning new things all the time. All the time, and I've been a Christian a long time. And I'm still learning things. And when God takes us through different things in our life, and we face the kind of things that we're facing in this world, it does help us to have an open heart, and we just draw closer to the Lord during those times.
We're seeing an attack on Christianity unlike we've ever seen it before. That seems like instead of being out there and being accepted, now we're being rejected and pushed away. And that is kind of interesting, because the non-believing world will say, well, I know what you guys are against. I don't really know what you're for, know. So in that, you have to stay pure to the doctrine, but at the same time, be inviting to those who have no idea what all this is about, and win them in before you can begin to mature them into the faith.
So, and that's a challenge. And I think the key to that is is loving people, loving God first. And, and when we love God, we're going to do what he tells us to do. We're going to stay with the word no matter what it costs us. So we got to start there. We got to be true to the word no matter what. But at the same time, I think there's a way to do that where we continue to have a Christ-like spirit. We continue to demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, all of those things. And I think we can do that. But it's more and more challenging for sure, and Christians are more and more being judged harshly by this world. But really, it shouldn't surprise us. I mean, that's what they did to Jesus, right?
Yeah, he said if they did it to me, they're going to do it to you.
Yeah, so it shouldn't catch us off guard. That's the way it is now, and probably only going to get worse, and so it is really important for us as believers to know how to navigate that, to know how to live, to know how to continue no matter what to love people. There used to be there are verses in the Bible that for many years, for a lot of Christians in the United States, didn't really have a lot of weight, like love those who persecute you, and bless those who are against you, and those kind of verses. We loved them because they're in the Bible, but now they're going to be more and more meaningful than ever in our lives.
We're hearing more and more people being challenged about their faith at the water cooler than ever before. I mean, people, your job becomes, you got to love them, but you've also got to train them to sustain themselves in this culture. I mean, they go to work and they could be persecuted for just thinking or believing or having a devotion or a Bible on their desk, So you got to really help them out.
Yeah. And again, it just comes back to, okay, I'm going to be true to the word. I'm going to love people. And boy, thank God for the Bible, God, just thank God because if we'll really be in the word, it'll encourage us every day. It'll help us know how to respond, not only help us know what to say, but how to say it. The Holy Spirit will lead and guide in those conversations.
Have you seen a change? I've interviewed a lot of pastors through the years, and one thing it's starting to see is a lot of pastors now have become more concerned about the quality of the saint. In other words, really making sure they're mature in the faith, and have become less concerned about the numbers. Are you seeing that? Do you sense that?
Yeah, I think the whole, and I want to be careful how I say this, but the whole kind of church growth movement, which, I love my church to grow if it's people coming to faith and being discipled.
Right.
But that whole idea of, and there's a lot of pressure put on pastors to do that. And so I'm not even faulting the pastors that have kind of been in that mode, because a lot of them, their heart has been right. They've just wanted to see people come to faith and come to Christ. But some of the methods used along the way have maybe left their churches a little shallow, and there's been maybe more of a tendency to entertain rather than really instruct and teach, disciple people, and compromises made along the way, in just kind of what the church really should be about and look like. And so we got to guard against that. On the other hand, I think we got to be careful against that kind of snooty, religious, hey, we're not very big, but boy, we're really deep kind of thing where there's no outreach. Because I think if a church is healthy, there's going to be fruit that comes from that. There's going to be people that are influenced by that church, and people are going to come to Christ, and we want our churches to grow.
Sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Pastor Tim Olson's with us today, and he pastors Bethel Church at Vista Point, and we're just starting a new series on how pastors are encouraging their congregations this time in our lives, as we see such a messy culture to live in. So we'll be back with Pastor Tim in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, theDove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Pastor Tim Olson. He's pastor of Bethel Church at Vista Point here in the Medford area, and he's kind of heading off our new series, talking to local pastors, and I'm going to have him back. This isn't a one-time shot, so we're going to take on some interesting topics over the next several months. But right now, I'm just asking local pastors, how are they encouraging their congregation in these crazy days in which we live? Because I don't think we'd ever see a day where the country, this beloved country, would be in such a mess, and there's a lot of blame to go around. And you're a pastor, you get your fair share, I get my fair share being on the air. It seems like the church is we're not doing this enough, we shouldn't be doing that, and all of these things, you hear the drill and you know it. But in the meantime, you got a congregation who's trying to keep their head above water in the middle of this stuff. I mean, the cost of living is through the roof. Right seems to be wrong. We got all of these cultural issues that are in our face. I don't know how parents can debrief their kids from the nonsense.
Yeah.
And you got all these electrical things going on. You got these tools and these tablets, and everything's demanding our attention. I don't know. Do you address that as a pastor?
Oh, absolutely. And the social media stuff, the electronics, it's a blessing and a curse, and that's what you got to teach people, that so many of these things, they can be used for great good, for sure. And the church needs to be thinking about that, but they can also become a real distraction from really letting God speak to us and having family time and all of those things. One of the things too that we're concerned about is kids lose their ability to be creative when they're always looking at something. There's no need to, when you and I were kids, we had to figure out games to play, right? We had to make our own toys. Back in the dark
now
ages.
They just get ours. It's an amazing. The other part of this is attention span. I don't know if you're seeing it in your ministry, but we see it a lot here. We know that through the research that we do here, that all of these devices have shortened the attention span to almost a danger point.
Yeah.
Are they listening to your whole sermon?
I have no idea. I hope so.
How have you changed in the ministry?
How have I changed?
Yeah.
Every person's journey is a little different, and we all grow in different ways. And you have to it kind of has two parts. First of all, you have to kind of adapt a little bit your ministry to wherever you are in the time that we live in and all of that. But then also on a personal level, we're all different from each other, and we're growing, and God's working in our lives. On a personal level, I would think that over the years, I've probably, and I think this happens to all of us men, is we probably mellow a little bit. We get a little smarter, a little gentler, a little more wise. And don't. I just remember early on in my ministry, and it wasn't all bad. I was super forceful and maybe a little over the top sometimes. And I think I've been able to temper that a little bit.
Pull that back?
Yes, a little bit, which is, it's actually more attractive to most people not to feel like they're getting yelled at all the time. But at the same time, I don't want to ever lose that passion for the Lord too, and really be passionate about the things of God. And man, I got to say, I love the Lord as much as I ever have in my life. And I'm as excited about being a pastor as day one, maybe even more.
Do you see miracles in your ministry?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
Share some, or give me an idea what it looks like.
Oh, well, let's see here. I think the greatest miracle, of course, is a changed life.
Right.
And those kind of things. I just think of some of the stories of people in our church and where they were 5 years ago, where they were a year ago, and to see how God has transformed them. It's absolutely amazing. I actually just tear up thinking about some of the people that are part of our congregation and kind of where they were the first time I met them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a huge miracle.
Yeah.
And then we do see, just
your building's a miracle.
miraculous.
Your building.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember when you guys were struggling down on the corner of McAndrews and Biddle,
Yeah, and just even the location is just one of those things where, we really felt that we were supposed to relocate, and we looked at property here and there, and nothing ever seemed to work out, and we were to the point of frustration at times. I know I was, where I was just going, God, what is happening here?
Yeah.
I feel like we're supposed to move, but every thing we try here is not working. And then our real estate guy comes in one day and he says, hey, I want to show you a piece of property, and took me up, and I stood on the property that our building is on now, and I just kind of felt in my heart, this is it, and this is why God closed all those other doors, is because he wanted us right here, for whatever reason. So
yeah, and you're one of the few pastors that survive a building program.
yeah. And I'll tell you, the key to that really is I've got a lot of really great people around me, and I told our church board early on in the whole thing, I said, look, you guys got to build this building, and I got to pastor the church. Because, when we get through this thing in 4 years, I want to still be your pastor, and I want us to have a church still, not just a building. Because if I build this building, we're probably going to have a building but not a church. So
how do you encourage people to pray? I mean, it's one of those things that, it's part of our vocabulary, it's part of our everyday activity, but then there comes a point of level prayer. Now, I've had the high honor to speak at your place a couple of times, and what I really appreciated was the prayer before the service. So there's something brewing in your boiler room there. Can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a value to us. And it has to be. I think one thing that's pretty clear from the teachings of Jesus, and when you read about what happened in the early church, one of the foundational things for the church needs to be prayer. And so it has to be a priority. It has to be kept before the people. And Jesus talked a lot about private prayer. He exemplified private prayer. There's a lot of teaching about, Jesus talked about going to your prayer closet, where no one else is going to see except for your Father in heaven is going to see. And so there's that part of it, but then corporate prayer, and this is something God's been laying upon my heart a lot, is the importance of agreement prayer or corporate prayer where we're coming together as a church. And it was, you go through Acts chapter 1, Acts chapter 2, 3, 4, you just read those early chapters in the book of Acts, and you see that was the pattern of the early church. And you talk about miracles. I mean, miracles were happening left and right. People's lives were being changed. Demons were being cast out. People are being set free. And they were praying. Maybe those two things go together. and so we talk about it a lot. We emphasize it. Right now, I'm preparing a series just going through the Lord's Prayer. And one of the things that struck me was even that first word. Jesus didn't pray, my Father. He prayed, there were times he did that, but in the Lord's Prayer,
our Father.
Our Father. We're praying together. That's corporate prayer, our Father. And so there has to be a high value and priority placed on prayer. And even more so as, we see the direction of our world. I know for me, I feel the need to pray more than ever in my life.
How do you balance the culture, politics, and your faith? Because they're all screaming at you. And there's not really a conflict there. We see that all throughout the Word. They had to do it. They had to do it back then. Jesus did it. And Jesus taught us to be salt. He taught us to be light. And so there shouldn't be this distinction of here's my public life and here's my private life. It's just my life. And so if there's a genuine faith about us, that is going to be reflected in what we're doing. I think as Christians and
citizens, we just remind ourselves we're citizens of two kingdoms, we're citizens of the kingdom, which is the more important citizenship, but we're also citizens of the United States of America as Christians, and so we have some obligations there to help our culture thrive and be a part of the process as much as God calls us to be a part of that process for the good of everybody, for the good of our country.
Wow, that's wonderful. We take on a lot of issues. Do you receive a lot of pressure to preach on them? I mean, we got the same-sex marriage issue, we got the abortion issue. Now we even got, whether or not we should be defending ourselves. We even got the Islamic issue. Do you feel pressure to talk about that, or do you just wait till the Lord moves on you to do that?
Yeah, I typically, the way I plan my preaching is usually, I like hearing from people because it does give me a sensitivity to where are people at. I certainly don't want to be preaching about, things no one really is interested in hearing about.
No.
But at the same time, I do. In fact, I just Monday of this week, I took a day and just got into a house up in the mountains, a little cabin up in the mountains, and I spent the whole day praying and just seeking the Lord. And I do that. That's something I do regularly. And so that's typically how I plan my preaching. And I almost always preach in series, but you got to preach on those things because those are the things that people are facing in their lives.
Right.
And how do we as pastors encourage those people unless we're, talking about the things they're facing every day?
What do you sense to be the biggest need for your church?
Well, I mean, I think it goes without saying, people's own personal relationship with the Lord, for sure. And then I think the second thing is just that sense of community, commitment to the body of Christ, commitment to one another.
I hear that a lot from people I bump in that are part of your congregation. There is this sense of family. If I was to, and I'm an outsider looking in, I thought, boy, Tim's doing something up there because everybody says it's family. I don't know if that's what you're trying to accomplish, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely,
because I think that is really, well, first of all, I think that's the Bible example of the church, and you read the New Testament, and there's so much that's said about community and family and the importance of that. And I think in our, again, getting back to the culture that we're living in and all of the social media, people have a lot of virtual friendships. And I think there's a lot of people that are hungry for real friendships, real face-to-face friendships, which is difficult. And this is one of the things that I think we do live in a world that people don't like dealing with messy relationships.
Yeah.
And it's like when things get messy, then I'm out.
Yeah.
People do that with their marriages. Unfortunately, they do that with their families. They do that with work sometimes, and they do it with church.
Yeah.
Things get messy. I'm offended. Someone hurt me. I don't like this. So I'll just go find a new church.
Yeah.
And not that there's never a time to find a new church, but for the most part, boy, if we can work things out with our Christian friends and our Christian community and work through the messiness, it just pays great dividends, I think.
All right, I only got a couple of minutes left here. What would you say to the person who's a believer but discouraged?
Yeah, I would tell them to remember a couple of things. To remember, first of all, we don't live for this world. I mean, we're in this world, but we're not of this world, and we've got a greater kingdom that we're a part of, and that kingdom is going to be made, fully manifest one day. Jesus is coming back, and I think that's always a good thing for us to remember. Jesus is coming back. This world eventually is not our home. All right, and in the meantime, while we are here, God is going to give us if we'll be patient, God will give us what it takes to not only survive, but actually to overcome and thrive in the world that we live in. And so, and then I would just encourage people again with the idea of spiritual family. When you're struggling, don't struggle alone.
Yeah.
Don't try to do it by yourself. God hasn't made us that way.
No.
We depend on the Lord for help, but we also depend on the family of God for help. And we can be open and honest and just say, hey, man, I'm struggling in my faith right now. Here's something I'm not understanding. I'm discouraged about this. That's okay.
Yeah. Come on in. We'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, you're a delight and an inspiration. Again, Bethel Church at Vista Point. So you go up McAndrews, those live in Medford, right top of the hill. You can't miss it. Your service times?
10 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and then we have Wednesday nights. We got stuff for the whole family. We've got a great Bible study on Wednesday nights for the adults. We have a Hispanic service on Wednesday nights, and then stuff for kids and teenagers and all of that fun stuff.
Pastor Tim Olson, thanks for coming in, buddy.
Oh, thank you for having me, Perry.
Right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, welcome back. The question that we've been talking about quite a bit even today is how secure is your computer? How secure is your personal data, your information? How secure are your credit cards, your debit cards? I mean, this is now becoming a major issue in our country. And even today, there's some significant stories in the news about NSA snooping in over the top of us, maybe even hijacking some radio frequencies to go after open computers. What's this all about? And just how secure is your information? Well, I have to tell you, personally, I've become quite alarmed about it, and I'm delighted to have back with us today, and we've had her before, and that is Dr. Katherine Albrecht. She's with us today, and she's going to talk about a couple of things, and also the service that she's been involved in. Katherine, nice to have you. How are you today?
Hey, Perry, I'm doing great. It's great to be back on your show. And I've got to say, 2013 was probably the year of Snowden, and 2014, I like to think, is going to be the year of solutions for all of these privacy breaches and incursions. You know, like any 12-step program says, you can't fix something until you admit you have a problem. And I think finally we're waking up to the fact that all of our data, whether it's in corporate databases like those held by Target or Google or other companies, or whether it's information like our phone records that are being funneled to the NSA, they're all at risk. And I think people are ready to stand up and start doing something about it.
Well, let's hope so. And I hope we get a Congress that has the fortitude to push back. Before we get into a couple of these subjects, what's the deal with Google now buying Nest? What's this all about?
Well, you know, the thing about Google has now expanded way beyond the search business into the data collection business. And when I say data collection, they're really a market research company looking to collect the maximum amount of data on you and me. This is why their search engine is there. They don't answer all your questions because they love you. They answer all your questions because every time you enter a search into Google, they capture that information and add it to a marketing profile that they keep on you. And that's the reason why they offer that little window, so you 10, 20 times a day can tell them exactly what's on your mind and the privacy, what you think is the privacy of your own home, even with the door shut and the shades drawn. Google is always watching what you search for. It's also the reason why they provided free email. A couple of years back, I was one of the signatories on an open letter to Google asking them not to release Gmail with the fine print proviso that they're able to read all of your email. They launched it anyway. They do read all of your email. And in fact, not only your email, but they read all your attachments. So if you send your tax return to your attorney, or to your accountant, for example, they're going to open up that attachment. They're going to find out your Social Security number, your income, the number of dependents you have, every detail that you provide in an attachment or in an email. They open it, they read it, they scan it, and they store the information, which is what made it such a tempting target for the NSA, because Google has more information on us through their search engine and their email program than even the government itself. So no wonder they wanted to piggyback and tap in. So when you hear about new things that Google is doing, you need to always read them and understand that Google's goal is to not leave any blind spots in their information about us. So Google just recently purchased a company called Nest for $3.2 billion. In fact, the deal is going through right now as we speak. Wow. What Nest is It's a high-tech thermostat that goes inside of your home that watches what you do in your home. It watches when you're home. It watches what temperature you set your thermostat to. It's a device in your home, almost like a Trojan horse in a way, that puts these technologies and these cloud-based services into your home to capture data from your home and upload it into the cloud. Now, the reason this is so significant is a couple of weeks ago, the director of engineering for Google said in an interview, well, he opened by saying, I don't have a microchip in my head yet. And then he went on to talk about how Google would like to have microphones in the ceilings of our homes by 2018. And so you think about a microphone in the ceiling of our homes, you've got to be kidding me. Nobody's going to allow that. When he explained why, it's kind of like the deck of the Starship Enterprise where Captain Kirk would say, computer, plot a course for Orion 17, or computer, tell us what's off the starboard bow. Right. And the computer would always be listening and would answer those questions on the fly. Well, that's what Google wants to create in our homes. So you would say, hey, home, turn on the oven and preheat it to 350 degrees. Or, hey, home, what time is that Steelers game going to be on tonight? And the house, the Google house, which would be listening to you all day long, would answer your questions. Now, I think they jumped the gun a little bit because when they announced that, people naturally said, heck no, I don't want a microphone from Google in my home. Right. Now you're really crossing a line. So the big question has been, how and when will Google manage to get its tentacles into our homes to be able to watch and observe and listen and add that data stream to the profile that they keep on us, the data stream of what time we get up and what time we have dinner and what we say in our bedrooms? That's information that Google desperately wants to get a hold of. And they want to do it through microphones in the ceiling that go directly to the cloud, but people aren't going to go for that. So it was not surprising to me when just a couple of weeks after that the goal was discussed of bugging our homes within the next couple of years, they purchased a company that already has some deep privacy concerns associated with it, that has these cloud-based technologies directly in our homes. Not only that, they also want to come out with a smoke detector that would be in your home, that would be able to speak to you, would be able to interact with you, that you'd be able to speak to it. It really starts crossing over into the realm of the creepy, if you ask me.
It appears to me that the beginning marketing of this would be through some form of security, whether it's a fire smoke detector, something like that, or motion detector. That's how they would probably get access to your home, is through some kind of a security promotion campaign. But let me ask you this, Katherine, do we know if there's any collaboration going on between the NSA and Google?
Well, we certainly know that Google provided the backdoors to the NSA through the PRISM program, but they weren't alone in doing that. There were 8 large major corporations that we all do business with that had provided similar access. So we know that Google had built those backdoors in so the NSA could monitor Google traffic. That's along with Yahoo, Microsoft, AOL, Skype, a whole bunch of companies, Facebook. Lots of them had been approached by the NSA, and the reason they got approached is because they are the companies that have the bird's eye view into our lives. And so if you're the NSA and you want to spy on everybody, you go to where the action is or where the data is. And so certainly Google was chief among the companies that was caught providing that access to the NSA. You know, the other thing, Perry, is it's not just the NSA that Google seems to be involved with now. They also seem to be deeply involved with DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Administration. These are the military folks who come up with the really creepy applications like armies of killer robots and cloning efforts and efforts to create drugs that can cause members of the military to forget combat experiences and such. So it's kind of the dark side of the military. Wow. And Google clearly has deep ties with them. And in fact, Google just purchased a company called Big Dog. If you want to scare yourself, go on YouTube and look up Big Dog and watch the video of this horrifying robot that can go through the woods. It looks like an animal.
Yeah.
And basically killer robots. So you have to ask yourself, what in the world does Google want with killer robots? I don't know.
We also had a story in our news this morning where the robots now will be sharing information between themselves. Are we ready for that?
Yeah, and you know, you look at the robots that Big Dog creates. They can run as fast as cheetahs, and they can run in packs, and they can hunt people down. So you got
Hey,
where's that going?
Couple quick questions before we run out of time. Now, you have an alternative for people that they can get involved in to have their stuff protected a little bit. What is that?
Yeah, we've got an alternative to both of those Google services. The alternative to Google, the search engine, is our search engine start page. And you can think about it because Google is normally the starting page of your website. You can make start page the start page of your website. It's at startpage.com. We are a proxy for Google search results. So if you go to start page, you'll see a search window just like Google's. You can type in your search. We submit it to Google for you, so Google never sees you. We strip out all the tracking cookies and give you Google search results privately, and then we delete all records of your visit. So it's completely private. It's based outside the U.S. in Europe, where they still have strong privacy laws, so no PRISM project or anyone can spy on you.
Good.
It's fully encrypted. And then we also have an alternative to Gmail, which is at startmail.com. So it's Start Page and Start Mail. There's a video at the top of startmail.com where you can see how it works and what it's all about. Fully encrypted email that no one can read. When you delete it, it's deleted forever.
Okay.
And that is coming out this spring. We're in a beta rollout right now, and if viewers of the Dove and listeners of the radio program The Dove would like to get an advance invitation, they can just mention the Dove or my name, Katherine Albrecht, at startmail.com. There's a little form at the bottom so they can pre-reserve an account.
All right, startmail.com. I only got about a minute left. Give me your summary of the mess that Target found themselves in over the holidays.
Yeah, well, it turns out that they were the victim of the same kind of data breach that the rest of us become victims to. They think it could have been something as simple as a Target employee clicking on an infected email that had a malware target on board. We do know that it was malware that got installed in their credit card processing system, and that goes to show you that if Target can't even protect itself, that we need to be very, very careful what we click on and what we do on the Internet. So all the more reason to be thinking about privacy-oriented services and just be very thoughtful about where we go on the net so we don't wind up as the next data breach in our own lives. All
right. Well, Katherine, you're a delight. Again, if you wanted to get more information, startmail.com, or if you want to check out the precursor to using Google, that's startpage.com. Thanks, Katherine. Keep us informed, will you?
Thanks so much, Perry. God bless you and your listeners. Thanks for all you do.
You too. God bless. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at the Dove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, we are back, and our very special guest today has written a book called JoyRide, Life, Death, and Forgiveness, a memoir, and that is by Pamela Koefoed. She's with us today. And by the way, Pamela is going to be the guest speaker today at the Jackson County Annual Luncheon, and that's going to be from noon to 1:30 at the Country Club, right?
That's correct. I'm looking very forward to this.
Okay. You have a fascinating story, and we have to squeeze it in a short amount of time, but knowing the story, why did you name the book JoyRide? It was anything but a joyride, wasn't it?
There was joy in it, but it's actually a play on words, and people who read the book quickly pick up the meaning behind the title. My mother's name is Joy, and she's one of the main characters in my memoir. When I was a child, nearly every day she would take my sister and I for a ride in her 1967 red Impala, and we would go to one of two bars. And in one bar, we were actually permitted to be inside because they didn't serve liquor, and we would sit there all day and sometimes late into the night until Mother was thoroughly drunk, and then we would go on a terrifying ride home. And the second bar, we would wait for many, many hours out in the parking lot in the car for our mother to return for us. And so the name, like I said, is a play on words.
Well, quickly, give us your story. It's not fair, but I want people to get the essence of it.
My mother was incarcerated for crimes that she committed against my stepdad, my sister Robin, and myself.
Really?
She committed arson, lit our home on fire on 4 different occasions.
Wow.
And this put her in prison. And when she came out of prison, my sister and I, we were little kids. I was 7 and 8 when the fires occurred. When she came out of prison, then we were returned to her. Now that's pretty shocking.
The courts put you back there?
They put us right back with our mother. This was in the early 70s,
Wow.
late 60s, early 70s. When we returned to mother, she just plunged into drinking. She had a little boy, and I'm speeding the story up. She had a baby. 40 years today, actually January 15th, my brother was born. And she began leaving him with us, with my sister and I. We were little girls. Left him in our care. It started out with 1 day, then days and nights. When he was when he was 8 weeks old was the first time that she left Stephen in our care overnight, and that increased to weeks. We would be weeks without our mother, and we would run out of food. We were neglected. We had lost most of our possessions in those 4 fires. We were hungry. We were starving. We were out without food, without diapers, without protection. My sister and I learned how to survive. People in poverty often learn how to survive. They're very come up with very creative ways to try to make food stretch. We went out looking for food. We became seasonal fruit pickers, gathering fruit from neighborhood trees just so that we could survive. And the story is much more. I wish I could give you more information, but there's just not enough time. But it was quite an adventure, training ground for what I'm doing now.
I'm stunned. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So when your mother came out of prison, she obviously went back into alcoholism.
She did.
What happened to her?
She plunged into alcohol. There are many causes behind the reasons that she did what she did, and none of them make any sense.
Right.
She was a person who had bitterness toward her mother, so there was a lot of unforgiveness in her soul. Her drinking, of course, contributed to that. She was neglectful to begin with. When I was 1 year old, she was already leaving me with my sister, and my sister was 3 years old. So if you can imagine a 3-year-old taking care of a 1-year-old. So when Stephen was born, she just continued in that same pattern of just neglecting us. We had very few clothing. My hair was long, brown hair was knotted to the base of my scalp. I was never bathed. My clothing was never washed. There was an aroma that hung around me. The neglect was very, very severe. But I'm so grateful to God because He does cause all things to work together for those who love Him.
What happened? How did you find God in all this?
When I was a little girl, I was drawn to Him. I had inside of me a force drawing me to Jesus. And somehow, even though I wasn't raised in a Christian home, I knew Jesus. Now, I believe that sometimes the Lord comes to little children and speaks to them, and I believe that's what happened to me. I had an aunt who was planting seeds in my life, but it was Jesus Himself who drew me. The 4th and last fire, I'd like to just talk about that for a second. After the fires, there was reconstruction work in between the fires. 2 happened at night while we were in bed, 2 in the daytime. The final one destroyed everything, just about all the contents of our home. I was a latchkey kid. I was accustomed to coming home and no one being there. My sister would arrive home an hour after me. And so on this particular day, I walked up to the door. I had my hand on the knob of my door. I was 8 years old, beginning to turn it when I heard a voice. And that voice, we all know that God speaks to us in many different ways, and so it did not come to me in a language like this. It came to me in a silent language, but I understood it nonetheless. And He told me to turn and run. I ran from my house, and before I arrived at my neighbor's door to knock on her door and say, something's wrong, there was a loud explosion. My house exploded into fire. Now, before this, I had been praying. Somehow I knew to talk to Jesus. And every night I had been asking Him to protect me and my family. And so it cemented in my heart that this was Jesus who saved me. Even though I didn't see Him, I heard Him. And because of this, I had a great propensity for the things of God and for spiritual things.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
When your mother lit the house on fire, was she intending to kill you too?
You know, I don't really know that. Only God knows that. But I do know that I do believe that she didn't know what she was doing. I think that there were many causes on many levels for the things that she was doing. I also believe it was spiritual. I don't include this in my story because they didn't want to freak readers out. But before the first fire, I actually saw the spirit of fear in my house. It was a spirit that manifested, and I saw it with my eyes. And I believe, this is my personal opinion, that it influenced my mother.
You and your siblings today, are they believers?
My sister is a pastor. I'm an evangelist. It's a remarkable, remarkable story. God is just so good in our lives. My brother hasn't fully come to the Lord, but he believes. It was harder for him to be recovered from the pain, but because of the work of the Holy Spirit in mine and my sister's hearts, we have mostly recovered.
And your mom?
My mom has passed on. She passed away a few years ago when she was 68.
Incredible story, because all psychology would tell you you shouldn't be normal. You know, I mean, the rejection, the experience, being left to care for yourself, all of that would be so psychologically damaging that, you know, you couldn't recover from it.
I believe the presence of Jesus with me throughout my childhood helped to preserve me. I mean, for instance, at night when I couldn't sleep because I was brokenhearted, the pain of the hunger was overshadowed by the ache in my heart for my mother. And I would lay in bed and I would sing songs. I would sing songs to Jesus. And as I would sing, this incredible peace would come upon me and I would be able to fall asleep. And I believe that same presence, that's the Holy Spirit. I believe that He was with me my whole life. But I also walked through the process of healing. I submitted myself to God. I resisted the devil and he fled. And then the Lord brought healing to my soul. And you know, healing is a journey. For all of us, it's a journey. You know, we're not going to be complete until we're in heaven. And one of the main keys for anybody who's going through a tough time and who has childhood pain or a lot of regret or pain is forgiveness. And I found that living a lifestyle of forgiveness and making the commitment that I would love my mother unconditionally and I would be a daughter to her even if she wouldn't be a mother to me. I practiced that my whole life. That commitment helped to keep me whole, helped to keep me well. And as I walked through the healing journey with Jesus and with people who loved me, that belief that forgiveness was going to be a key in that journey was very, very vital.
The book is entitled JoyRide, Life, Death, and Forgiveness, a memoir. And how do they get a copy of this?
This book can be picked up in Medford. I really appreciate Evangel for carrying it at the mall.
Okay. It's at Evangel at the mall?
Okay. And Amazon carries it.
Okay.
And we also have a JoyRide book website. We would love for viewers and listeners of Dove to go on our website. It's www.joyridebook.com.
JoyRide book or books?
Book.
All right, joyridebook.com. Wow, how fascinating. When did you realize that Jesus was Jesus? I mean, I realized you had a relationship very young with him, but when did you put it all together spiritually? When did that happen for you?
I realized that Jesus was Jesus when I was a little child, but I didn't understand that I needed to invite him into my heart until I was 16.
Okay.
I would do anything for Jesus.
Okay.
Okay, and so on a bigger picture of what you're saying, I didn't know about God the Father until I was much older.
Okay.
I only knew about Jesus, and I only knew Jesus. I talked to him like you would talk to a friend, and little children have a pure faith, and my faith was very pure.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I want to hear more about this. By the way, Pamela is going to be speaking today at the Rogue Valley Country Club at Casa of the Jackson County Annual Luncheon, and that'll be from noon until 1:30. And I would assume if they want to get information, they can just probably show up over there and hear your whole story. But you may want to get a copy of the book. Check it out at Evangel, JoyRide, and it is at Evangel. There's a picture of there on the screen. And check it out at joyridebook.com as well. Pamela, thanks for coming in. Fascinating.
Perry.
Want to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to come back.
Okay.
Perry, thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, we'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.